Chosen One, right now, in this very moment, the veil between where you are and where you're meant to be is growing thin. Don't look away from this message. You didn't stumble upon this video by chance. Your spirit was drawn here because there's something stirring in the unseen realm that concerns your destiny. What if I told you that the restlessness you've been feeling isn't random anxiety, but divine preparation? If you dismiss what's being revealed tonight, you risk missing the exact moment heaven decided to accelerate your breakthrough. This isn't content you consume. This is a prophetic interruption designed to realign your entire trajectory. You are not here by accident. What's ahead in this message will expose the exact reason you've felt stuck between seasons. But before we get there, here's what you need to understand first. The discomfort you've been experiencing isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's proof that you're being prepared for something far greater than your current capacity. The old version of you is being dismantled so the authentic you can finally emerge. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why every door had to close before the right one could open. Your spirit is about to receive a download that will shift how you see every delay, every disappointment, every moment of confusion you've been carrying. This word isn't just relevant, it's the key that unlocks the next chapter of your divine assignment. Hit the like button to declare, "I'm ready to receive this divine message." It takes just a second, but help spread this word to thousands of other chosen ones who need it right now. Comment 777 if you're declaring today as the day you step into divine abundance, favor, and breakthrough. Share one thing you need prayer for today in the comments. Then be a blessing to someone else by responding to their request with faith and love. As you share your prayer, know that hands and hearts across this community are lifting it up. And when you pray for another, blessings will return to you. And to our cherished members, your support is a seed of love. May the Lord water it with peace, purpose, and powerful answers to prayer. There's a deep reason, I believe, that you've been feeling this persistent weight, this almost unsettling sense of holy dissatisfaction. It's not just a passing mood, a fleeting moment of discontent that whispers then fades, or a brief cloud passing over the sun of your life. No, this feeling runs much deeper. It's a quiet, resonant hum beneath the surface of your everyday existence, a restless, vital energy that simply won't let you truly settle, no matter how hard you try to push it down, ignore its gentle insistence, or distract yourself from its persistent, undeniable presence. It's like an inner compass, deeply embedded within your spirit, spinning with purpose, pointing relentlessly to a true north that feels just out of reach, yet undeniably real, a magnetic pull towards something more authentic, more expansive. This sensation, this beautiful ache that stirs in the quiet chambers of your soul, is a gentle but firm nudge from somewhere profound within your spirit, an undeniable whisper, a sacred prompting, telling you with unwavering clarity that where you are right now, as comfortable or familiar or even safe as it might seem, simply isn't enough anymore for the magnificent expansion, the glorious unfolding that God, in His boundless love, desires for you. Honestly, I sense with every fiber of my being, with a certainty that resonates deep within my own spirit, that heaven itself is stirring things up in your life, not to punish you, not to condemn or diminish you, but for a really powerful, profoundly transformative purpose. It's an awakening, a divine and tender call to a deeper, more authentic version of yourself, one that is truly, joyfully aligned with the divine blueprint, the exquisite master plan that was woven into the very fabric of your being before time began. It's time to breathe into that expansion, to allow the tender shoots of what's next to break through the familiar soil. In those quiet, unguarded moments, perhaps when the house is still and the world outside has hushed its clamor, or as you watch the sunrise paint the sky with hues of hope and new beginnings, when no one else is around and you're just reflecting, truly reflecting on the intricate landscape of your life. It's like God has been subtly, yet so strategically and precisely, rearranging things around you. You might notice it first as a shift in the very air you breathe, a subtle vibration, a tremor beneath your feet that signals an impending, inevitable change. Perhaps it's a sudden and unexpected shift in circumstances at work, a path closing where you once saw a clear way forward, or the quiet, sometimes painful reshaping of key relationships that once felt utterly solid, like ancient oaks rooted deep in firm ground. Or perhaps it's even the closing of doors, beloved doors that for so long felt familiar, safe, and utterly unshakable. Doors behind which you felt a comforting sense of predictability. He's doing this with divine precision, with the care of a master gardener pruning for greater fruit, not to create chaos or disorder, but so that the false comforts you've unknowingly relied on in your old season, those worn-out garments of complacency, those threadbare habits of mind and heart, just won't cut it anymore. They'll begin to feel hollow, like a well that's run dry, leaving your soul parched, incomplete, like a beautiful song with missing notes, no longer satisfying the deep, insatiable thirst of your soul for something genuine and eternal. This isn't arbitrary, it's profoundly intentional. He's actually in the painstaking, tender, yet powerful process of breaking off any agreement you've unconsciously or unknowingly made with limitation, those invisible boundaries you've permitted to define you, those subtle, self-imposed cages that have for too long kept you small, kept your spirit from soaring to its rightful heights, kept your potential constrained within narrow confines. He's calling you out from whatever hiding place you've retreated to, that comfortable cave of familiarity and perceived safety you've grown accustomed to, gently but firmly nudging you to look closely, with unflinching honesty and courageous self-awareness, at those very areas where compromise and comfort have quietly taken root and started to hold you back, tethering you to a past that no longer serves your unfolding future, a future brimming with divine possibility. He loves you too much to leave you stuck, too much to see you live a life less than the glorious, abundant one He destined for you. I really want you to grasp something profoundly important here, something that in our human tendency to fear disruption, to cling to the known, many people tend to miss entirely. That spiritual discomfort you're feeling right now, that deep yearning that keeps you awake at night, that restless energy that won't be quieted, that beautiful ache for more, for something truer and deeper. It's not some kind of punishment, not a sign that you've done something wrong or that God is displeased with you, withholding His favor. No, quite the opposite. It is actually a profound, breathtaking act of mercy, a divine intervention of love, a tender and urgent call from the heart of the Father. Think about Moses, a man wrestling deeply with his past, burdened by the shame and regret of what he once was, yet also feeling an immense unspoken calling, a stirring of destiny deep within him. He was out in the vast, desolate wilderness, literally on the far side of nowhere, tending sheep, seemingly forgotten, resigned to a life of quiet anonymity. When he saw that burning bush, aflame with divine fire but miraculously not consumed, he probably thought with a jolt of anxiety, "Oh no, this is it. This interruption is going to expose me, highlight all my failures, and utterly disqualify me from anything good or significant." He may have perceived it as a sudden, inconvenient threat, a problem to avoid, a roadblock to his already quiet, manageable existence. But what he perceived as a threat, God intended as a threshold. It was truly God's divine, unmissable invitation, a sacred appointment. It was the precise Kairos moment he was meant to step into the very purpose he was born for, the calling that had been stirring like a hidden ember within him all along. And right now, that strange burning sensation in your spirit, that undeniable restlessness you can't quite put into words, that feeling like your usual routine, your comfortable patterns, your familiar responses, just don't fit or satisfy anymore, like a garment that has become too small. That, my friend, is your own burning bush moment. It's a sacred summons, a call to sacred ground, a hallowed invitation to step into something holier, something higher. Don't let it pass you by. Please don't overlook it. Don't dismiss it as mere anxiety or fleeting dissatisfaction, a trick of the mind. If you wait around for every single piece of the puzzle to make perfect logical sense, for every star to align in a cosmic display, for everything to be perfectly clear and comfortable before you dare to move, you might just miss the precise, God-ordained moment when He is ready to do something incredible, something that echoes through eternity and makes history, not because of your perfect understanding, but all because of your simple, courageous, and profound act of obedience. As it says in the ancient wisdom of Habakkuk 2:3, "For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay." His timing is flawless, even when our human eyes cannot discern it. You know, some of the biggest, most life-altering breakthroughs, the kind that redefine everything you thought you knew, often come not when we're desperately striving, frantically searching for every single answer, or trying to intellectually dissect our way into understanding the incomprehensible. Instead, they arrive in those quiet, tender moments when we simply stop, when we choose stillness amidst the clamor and sit with a heart open to receive the revelation that God is already, patiently, lovingly trying to show us. It's not about strenuous mental effort forcing an answer from the heavens. It's like the light bulb finally goes off, not from rigorous intellectual pursuit or endless analysis, but from quiet reception, from a gentle, receptive opening of the Spirit to receive what has always been there, waiting to be seen, waiting to be illuminated. It's the difference between trying to grasp the wind and simply allowing it to fill your sails. If that resonates with you, if you're feeling that undeniable stirring within your soul, that deep hunger for clarity and truth that feels like a spiritual thirst, then I really encourage you to check out The 10 Hidden Truths of Jesus Parables. This isn't just another book, another theoretical read. It's a short but incredibly powerful ebook that unlocks practical, spirit-led truths, like ancient keys turning effortlessly in long-forgotten locks, truths that can directly impact your understanding of money in a kingdom way, bringing profound order and divine flow. It can bring deep healing to places in your life you thought were broken beyond repair, places where old wounds still festered, and give you remarkable emotional clarity that gently untangles years of confusion, misperception, and emotional clutter. It's an invitation to shift your perspective and truly see things through a divine lens, not just with your eyes, but with the illuminated eyes of your spirit. The link for it is right there in the first comment. For your convenience, but just a heads up, it's only available for a limited time, a brief window to step into this deeper understanding, this profound well of divine wisdom. Don't let that window close on you. Let's talk about the first big step, the foundational shift that will begin to rewrite the story of your life, not just in fragments, but from its very core. This is where you truly break your agreement with anything God never called you to be or do, severing ties with every lie you've believed about yourself. Imagine for a moment that you've been living under a subtle spell, a quiet enchantment of limitation, a cloak of invisibility you've worn perhaps since childhood. It's about stopping that old, deeply ingrained habit of echoing labels that were unfairly placed on you by others, by well-meaning but misguided parents who saw only your flaws, by critical teachers who stifled your brilliance, by past failures that still whisper their accusations, by society's narrow, limiting definitions that tried to box you in. It's about consciously, definitively refusing to replay those diminishing, unholy words that people spoke over your life when they simply couldn't see your true design, your real, boundless potential, your glorious identity as a beloved child of Christ. Think about it. You've probably worn disappointment like a heavy suit of armor for far too long, convinced it was protecting you from further hurt, from further exposure, from the sting of rejection. But in reality, while it offered a false, suffocating sense of security, it has been subtly, relentlessly weighing you down, stifling your breath, dimming your light, and preventing you from moving freely and powerfully into the magnificent destiny God has laid out for you. It's time, truly, with a sacred resolve, to lay that down, to shed that burdensome weight as if discarding a heavy, useless cloak. There's a new name, a new identity, a glorious truth about who you are, being whispered directly into your spirit right now, one that perfectly matches the divine assignment that's waiting for you, a name that resonates with your deepest purpose and calls you into your highest self. As 2 Corinthians 5:17 reminds us with such liberating power, therefore if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. This isn't just a theological statement, it's a living, breathing reality for you. And as we continue, we're going to dive even deeper into the practical steps that can permanently shift those internal labels, changing how you see yourself from the inside out, aligning your self-perception with God's unchanging, empowering truth. It's powerful, utterly liberating, and profoundly transformative. Now for the second step, equally vital, equally non-negotiable in this journey of breakthrough and true liberation. It's time to truly expose the patterns that have been quietly running the show in your life, often without your conscious awareness, like invisible puppet strings. This isn't a comfortable process. It requires immense courage, a raw honesty, and a willingness to look inward with unflinching gaze, to peel back the layers and confront what you find. Don't rush past those uncomfortable, piercing questions that rise to the surface, those moments of jarring self-awareness. Really lean into them. Allow them to illuminate the hidden corners of your soul, those dusty attics and shadowy basements where old habits and unexamined beliefs reside. What are those cycles that just keep recurring over and over again, like a broken record stuck on repeat? Or a recurring dream you can't escape in your relationships, your finances, your habits, your emotional responses to triggers, even in your spiritual walk? It's like Groundhog Day sometimes, isn't it? That frustrating, disheartening sense of repeating the same mistakes, encountering the same obstacles, feeling stuck in the same ruts, even when you earnestly desire change. Think about the epic, heartbreaking story of the Israelites in the desert. They wandered for 40 long, grueling years, a generation seemingly lost, and tragically, most of that generation died so incredibly close to the promised land, their destiny tantalizingly within reach just beyond the horizon. Why? Not because God didn't want them to enter. His desire was always for their blessing and inheritance, for them to dwell in a land flowing with milk and honey, but because they stubbornly refused to confront the internal patterns that plagued them. Their deep-seated fear of the unknown, their constant complaining and murmuring against divine provision, their chronic, often irrational lack of faith despite witnessing miraculous signs and wonders. These deeply ingrained patterns, unaddressed, would have completely sabotaged their destiny once they stepped into that blessing, turning the promised land into another wilderness. Your promised land, that place of breakthrough, fulfillment, and abundant living, absolutely requires a different mindset than the one you've been operating with in your wilderness season. It's about letting go of old ways of thinking that perhaps got you this far, but simply won't get you where you need to go next. It's about cultivating new habits of thought, new responses to life's challenges, and a new spiritual posture, one of profound trust and expectation. Next, and this is so crucial for your freedom, for the very liberation of your spirit, you need to silence the counterfeit voice. There's a voice, isn't there? You know the one I mean intimately. Sometimes it's a subtle whisper, barely noticeable at first, like a shadow creeping in at the edges of your thoughts, sowing seeds of doubt. Other times, it's a roaring accusation that screams at you, rattling your very foundations, shaking your sense of worth and purpose. It's the voice that desperately tries to convince you that any delay you're experiencing in your life automatically means denial, that God has forgotten you, that your dream is simply not going to happen, that you're not good enough, or that it's simply too late for you. But remember this fundamental, unshakable truth. The voice of the accuser is always, always subtractive. It never adds to your life, never builds you up. It only diminishes, subtracts, and tears down. It always aims to shrink your vision, to chip away relentlessly at your hope, to the point of spiritual and emotional paralysis, leaving you feeling utterly defeated. It wants you to feel stuck, incapable, utterly alone, and utterly without power. Think about Jesus in the wilderness when the tempter came at him, unleashing every lie and accusation imaginable, attempting to distort his identity and derail his purpose. How did Jesus silence him? Not just once, but every single time. He simply declared, with divine authority that echoed through the wilderness, "It is written." He didn't argue or debate. He didn't enter into a philosophical discourse with the enemy. He spoke truth over the lie, revealing its emptiness, its powerlessness in the face of God's word. Discernment, truly seeing things clearly and separating God's truth from deception's cunning whispers, starts with this kind of spiritual subtraction, actively, intentionally removing the lies from your mind and heart and fiercely focusing on God's unwavering truth, his unchanging promises that stand firm through every storm. This is not a one-time event. It is an intentional daily practice, a moment-by-moment choice. And coming up, we're going to uncover a hidden habit that might be secretly feeding into your delays right now, unknowingly giving that counterfeit voice more power than it deserves, and how to decisively, powerfully break free from its grip once and for all. Then, we absolutely have to talk about stopping the delay in your obedience. This is a big one, a pivot point, a crucial turning point that often holds people back from their fullest potential, from stepping into the abundant life God has for them. You see, partial obedience, doing just a little bit of what God asks of you, or doing it half-heartedly, with reservation, with one foot still rooted in the familiar, is still fundamentally rooted in fear, a subtle distrust in the goodness and wisdom of God that ultimately blocks the full flow of blessing. It's like saying, "God, I trust you a little bit, enough to dip my toes in the water, enough to try a bit, but not enough to go all in, not enough to truly surrender control, to dive into the deep end." It's an attempt to maintain a comfortable distance, to keep an escape route open, a back door to the familiar world you're trying to leave. Think about Jonah, called to a momentous, life-altering assignment in Nineveh, an assignment that would ripple through eternity. He clearly knew his assignment from God, the divine instruction burning within him, undeniable in its clarity, but he chose to run in the complete opposite direction, fleeing from his calling, convinced he knew better, convinced his way was safer or smarter. And it was only when he found himself in the belly of that huge discomfort, literally at rock bottom, swallowed by a giant fish in the crushing darkness of desperation, that he finally, in utter brokenness and surrender, gave himself over to the acceleration that God wanted for him all along. He had to be in a place of total desperation, stripped of all other options, with nowhere else to run, to truly realize that God's plan was not just the best plan, but the only plan for his life, the only path to true freedom and purpose. The very thing you're stalling on right now, that specific instruction you're procrastinating about, avoiding or just putting off, that quiet nudge from the Spirit that keeps resurfacing patiently yet persistently in your thoughts and prayers, that's precisely where your breakthrough has been hiding, like a treasure awaiting discovery. It's like a secret compartment that only opens with your yes, your decisive, wholehearted act of obedience, your courageous willingness to step out of the familiar and into the divine. Fifth on our list is a tough but profoundly necessary step, one that often brings tears of grief and liberation in equal measure. Kill what's comfortable. This isn't about being mean or harsh or destructive. It's about being spiritually ruthless, driven by a fierce, uncompromising love for your own ultimate well-being and growth, for the abundant life God intends. God never called you to manage or painstakingly maintain things that He's actually asked you to bury, to lay to rest once and for all, to cut away completely. Some relationships, some long-standing habits, even certain deeply ingrained thought patterns or belief systems might have been helpful at one point, serving a purpose in a past season, or they simply got you to where you are now, providing a temporary comfort or perceived safety. But if you're honest with yourself, truly honest in the quiet, sacred chambers of your heart, you know they're now actively sabotaging your future, silently draining your energy, like a slow leak, and preventing you from moving forward into the magnificent destiny God has for you. Think about Abraham, the father of faith, a man whose life was defined by promise. He surely found comfort and a sense of relief, a human solace in Ishmael, the son born out of his own human efforts, his own impatience, and attempts to help God's promise along, to force a timeline. Ishmael was tangible, real, a testament to his own ability, but at a certain crucial, agonizing point, God demanded that Abraham trust only the supernatural promise He had given him, the promise of Isaac, the son of promise, the one born of divine intervention. Letting go of Ishmael was agonizingly painful. It was a severing of a deep bond, a surrender of his own doing, his own creation. Yet it was absolutely essential for the true divine promise to manifest in its purity and power, untainted by human striving. What Ishmaels are you clinging to? What comfortable yet hindering things are you afraid to release, to truly bury, knowing that their presence stifles your future? Coming up, we'll dive into what is arguably the most misunderstood move in spiritual maturity, and yet it's the very one that sets absolutely everything else in motion in your life, unlocking a torrent of divine flow and unprecedented blessing. Sixth, it's vital, profoundly vital, to honor your hidden years. In our modern world, we are constantly bombarded with images and narratives that celebrate public achievement, instant recognition, and immediate success. Social media, in its relentless demand for performance, demands that every moment be documented, every triumph amplified, every success broadcast. But there are seasons in life, often longer and more challenging than we'd like, that are spent in obscurity, away from the spotlight, in what feels like the quiet shadows, unseen, uncelebrated. This can feel like a punishment, like being forgotten. But think about David, the shepherd boy living in the quiet fields. He was anointed king by Samuel in private, in the humble, unassuming setting of his father's house, long before he ever actually sat on the throne of Israel, before anyone else recognized his future. And what was he doing during those silent, unseen years? Those years between prophecy and fulfillment? He wasn't idle or forgotten. He was being divinely prepared. He was faithfully tending sheep, practicing his music, cultivating his intimate, unshakable relationship with God, fighting off lions and bears with raw, audacious courage in the wilderness, and later serving King Saul, enduring unfair persecution and relentless jealousy with grace and unwavering loyalty. It was his unwavering faithfulness in that obscurity, in those unseen, character-shaping moments, that truly prepared his character, forged his leadership abilities, deepened his spiritual sensitivity, and refined his heart to be truly after God's own heart. Obscurity is never a waste of time. It is not a sign that God has forgotten about you or that your dreams have been shelved indefinitely. It is, in fact, the powerful, sacred training ground, the essential incubation period, the vital refining fire for those who are chosen for something significant, something impactful, something that will echo through generations. Value those quiet, behind-the-scenes moments, those seasons where it feels like nothing is happening on the surface, where your growth is internal. They are building you up, preparing you, equipping you for the grand stage God has prepared for your unveiling. As the roots grow deep, unseen and silently, the tree will grow strong and tall, able to withstand any storm. Seventh, you must confront your secret fears. This is a big one, a critical juncture, a true hinge moment, because it directly impacts your capacity, your ability to receive, to steward with wisdom, and to expand the blessings and assignments God has for you. What you genuinely refuse to face, what you keep hidden away in the shadows of your heart, tucked away in the deepest recesses of your being, perhaps even from yourself, will inevitably, subtly, yet powerfully limit what you are allowed to steward in your life. It's like an invisible ceiling on your potential, a self-imposed barrier that prevents you from reaching your true height, from fully inhabiting the greatness within you. Think about Queen Esther, a young woman thrust into unimaginable circumstances. Her greatest victory wasn't just in becoming queen, although that was a significant and miraculous part of her story, a testament to divine favor. Her true triumph, the moment that defined her, the moment that secured a nation's fate, was in confronting her very real, very terrifying fear for the sake of her calling, for the sake of her people, choosing courageous action over personal comfort and safety. She had to risk everything, even her own life, declaring with trembling yet resolute conviction, "If I perish, I perish." What are you holding back from? What audacious step are you avoiding? What profound word are you refusing to speak? What deep-seated wound are you refusing to acknowledge because of a fear you haven't truly looked at, acknowledged, or dared to name in the light? Naming that fear, bringing it into the light of God's truth, acknowledging its grip on your heart, and then taking a courageous step despite it, not waiting for the fear to magically disappear, to evaporate into thin air, but acting in faith right through it. That is precisely where real, earth-shaking breakthrough happens. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, a spirit that cripples and paralyzes, but a spirit of power, a spirit of love, and a spirit of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. His antidote to fear is within you. Eighth, here's a paradox that will stretch your understanding, challenge your logic, and truly blow your mind wide open. Give what you need. In times of profound lack, when you feel like you have absolutely nothing left to give, when your resources feel depleted, be it time, energy, love, or finances, sowing generosity is often the very thing, the divine strategy that breaks the suffocating grip of scarcity in your life and unlocks supernatural provision. It seems utterly counterintuitive, doesn't it? Our human logic, our survival instinct, tells us to hoard, to hold tight to every last crumb in times of want, to protect what little we have. But remember the widow at Zarephath, a woman on the brink of absolute despair at the end of her rope. She literally thought she was preparing her last meal for herself and her son before they starved. A heartbreaking final act of a life tragically cut short. But her willingness to give that meager portion, that last little bit of flour and oil, to the prophet Elijah, an act of incredible, reckless faith that defied all human logic, all reason, all common sense, didn't just provide for Elijah's immediate need. It unlocked a supernatural, unending supply from heaven for her entire house, a continuous flow that sustained them through the famine. God doesn't need what you have. He is the creator and owner of all, the source of all abundance. But He looks at the heart behind your willingness to give, even from your deepest lack, for it is a profound testament to your trust in His boundless provision, your belief in His faithfulness. Try it in small, seemingly insignificant ways that require a deep stretch of faith. Give your time when you feel overwhelmed and pressed for it. Give kindness when you feel unseen, unappreciated, or invisible, when you crave it most. Give forgiveness when you feel deeply hurt and just want to hold on to bitterness, to nurse that wound. Watch what happens. Watch the spiritual economy of heaven, the divine law of sowing and reaping. Respond to your open hand and generous heart, expanding your capacity to receive beyond measure. Ninth, It's crucial, utterly vital, to renounce the false timeline. The world, with its constant, relentless pressure for instant gratification, for immediate results, for overnight success, and for everything to happen on our schedule, according to our preconceived notions, tells you a cunning lie that God has forgotten about you when things take too long, when the waiting period stretches beyond your patience. It whispers, with insidious intent, "See, nothing's happening. You're being passed over. It's too late for your dream, for your calling, for your breakthrough." It tempts you with a subtle cruelty to compare your unique, divinely appointed journey to others' seemingly accelerated paths, leaving you feeling frustrated and inadequate. But consider Jesus himself, the very Son of God. He showed up in the fullness of time, not a moment early, not a second late, but precisely when all the conditions were perfectly aligned. His arrival, his ministry, his sacrifice, his resurrection, every single step, every breath, every miracle, every word was perfectly orchestrated according to a vast, intricate, divine calendar, a cosmic symphony, not a hasty human one driven by impatience. God's plan unfolds with cosmic precision, with the accuracy of a master clockmaker, working behind the scenes in ways we cannot yet perceive. Stop letting your personal calendar, your self-imposed deadlines, your personal expectations, or society's fleeting pressures dictate your faith and your profound sense of divine timing. God's timing is always perfect, always precise, always for your highest good, even when it feels incredibly slow, frustratingly silent, or utterly confusing to us in our limited human perspective through the foggy lens of our impatience. Trust that he's working tirelessly behind the scenes, preparing the way, moving pieces into perfect alignment, aligning circumstances, shaping hearts, and unfolding events in ways you cannot yet fathom. He is never late, and he never, ever forgets his sacred promises to you. 10th, and this is a point where many people stumble and get stuck, often lingering for years in hesitation, trapped in a paralysis of analysis. It is to embrace the divine contradiction. Here's what I mean, and it's a truth that sets the soul free. God very often asks you to move, to take action, to step out in faith, while you still feel incomplete, while you still feel utterly unprepared, while you still feel like you don't have all the pieces together, or all the clarity you crave, all the answers neatly tied with a bow. Our human tendency, our deeply ingrained comfort zone, is to wait until we're perfectly healed, perfectly equipped, perfectly certain, or perfectly clear before we dare to step out in faith. We want all the answers, all the guarantees, a complete roadmap. Before we take the slightest leap into the unknown, we demand a promise of comfort, a guarantee against failure. But remember the lepers in the Bible, desperate for healing, isolated by their affliction, when Jesus told them to go show themselves to the priests, a Levitical requirement for those healed of skin diseases. They were still visibly covered in leprosy. Their healing hadn't manifested yet in the physical realm. It was as they went, as they were in motion, as they took that audacious, defiant step of obedience, despite their current visible reality, that they were healed. Their healing met them in the act of faith, on the journey, in the very process of obedience, not before it began. Your healing, your breakthrough, your clarity, your divine provision. It often meets you in motion, in the act of walking out your faith, not before you start. Don't wait for perfect clarity. Take the first step in faith, even if it's a small, trembling one, even if your knees knock together, and the clarity will often reveal itself along the way, illuminating the path as you walk it, one step at a time, until the whole landscape comes into view. 11th, you need to let God redefine your limitations. This is a profound shift in perspective, a truly countercultural way of seeing yourself and your journey. Sometimes the very thing you've been protecting, that you've tried to hide, conceal, or compensate for, that perceived flaw, that weakness, that area of vulnerability that makes you cringe with discomfort, is actually what's preventing your miracle, blocking the full flow of God's power and unmerited grace in and through your life. It's what's holding you back from experiencing God's full, unadulterated power and grace, because you're trying to be strong in your own strength, perfect in your own ability. Think about Paul, that mighty apostle used by God to preach to nations, and his mysterious thorn in the flesh. He begged God, not once but 3 times, with fervent prayer, to remove it, to take away this nagging affliction that tormented him. But God's answer was not what he expected, not what his human logic desired. God said with divine wisdom and tender resolve, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Paul's thorn didn't disqualify him from his assignment. Instead, it became a sacred conduit, a channel for God's power. It brought a supernatural grace into his life that human strength, human ability, or human perfection could never provide. It kept him humble, utterly dependent on God, stripped of self-reliance, and allowed God's uncontainable, awe-inspiring power to shine brightly through his very real, very raw vulnerability, a light shining through the cracks. What if your greatest limitation, that struggle you've tried so hard to overcome or conceal, to hide from the world, is actually your greatest invitation for God to show up powerfully, to demonstrate his glory in a way that utterly transcends human logic and brings him all the praise, all the honor. It's often in our deepest brokenness that his light shines brightest. Finally, and this is the one that I believe will truly break something open for you, releasing a cascade of blessing, a torrent of divine favor. You must release your right to understand everything before you surrender. This is the deepest, most radical level of trust, the truest expression of childlike faith, a surrender that flows from a heart utterly convinced of God's goodness, even when he seems silent or inscrutable. Faith isn't grown by getting all the answers up front, by having every question resolved, every mystery explained, or by seeing the entire blueprint laid out perfectly before you take a single step. No true, transformative faith, the kind that moves mountains and reshapes destinies, is grown by courageous obedience, by taking that step forward even when you're steeped in uncertainty, when the path ahead seems shrouded in mist, when you can only see one foot in front of the other. Some of the most profound breakthroughs in life, the ones that reshape your entire reality, that usher you into a whole new dimension of existence, don't come with a sudden intellectual flash of clarity that explains everything, illuminating the grand design. They come instead with a simple, radical, unreserved act of trust in the one who holds all understanding, who sees the beginning from the end, whose ways are higher than our ways. So tonight, as the day draws to a close and the quiet stillness of evening settles around you, before you drift off to sleep, I want you to say this prayer out loud, really letting the words sink into your spirit, allowing them to resonate in the deepest chambers of your being. From the core of your existence, I release all fear. I release all doubt. I step into my divine purpose fully and completely, with every fiber of my being, and I trust that my miracle is already on its way, already unfolding, already in motion, carried by the hands of grace. Just breathe that in. Let it permeate your very essence. Let it settle deep into your soul, into your bones, transforming you from the inside out. If this message, these words, these truths have stirred something deep inside you, if you felt that little flicker of hope, that spark of recognition, that quiet but undeniable confirmation from your spirit, a knowing that resonates with truth, please don't let this just be another video you scroll past, another fleeting moment of inspiration that fades into the noise and busyness of everyday life. This is not just content. This is an invitation to active engagement, to a deeper walk with the Spirit, to a living, breathing faith that moves mountains. Stay connected with this community, this growing family of faith, a sacred gathering of kindred spirits. Leave your prayer request in the comments below. Share what's truly on your heart, release the burden, and as you do, take a moment to pause, breathe, and pray for someone else who's also shared their request, extending grace and compassion. Let's create a beautiful tapestry of mutual support and intercession, woven with threads of shared vulnerability and powerful prayers. Your next level, your true breakthrough, the magnificent expansion God has for you, is waiting for you on the other side of courageous obedience and radical, fearless love. Love for God, love for yourself, and love for others. Step into it.